How you doing today, Dom?
I'm doing good. How are you doing? Thank you so much for being here and accepting this. Like as I was telling your guys' community when they came through, is like I'm super honored for this, and I appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to hearing your experiences and what you've gone through throughout your life as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me and even considering me to be a part of something like this, because I did put at the beginning of my stream like a sensitivity warning, because this is heavy subject matter. It's nothing to play with. And this is literal life and death discussion. So for anybody that is uncomfortable or this might be triggering for you, thank you guys again for following. I see those. But just be mindful that this is heavy subject matter. So I just want to give that fair warning as well.
Yes, thank you for that. Yeah, exactly. So you don't have to, if this is triggering you and you still want to listen, that's also perfectly fine. You can lurk and you're listening to what we're talking about. If it is triggering and you have to step away, that's perfectly fine too. We don't hold anything against you. Listen, we're here for you guys. We're here for each other. And we're here to stay positive and help each other out. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I feel like being able to talk about suicide ideation, suicide attempts, suicide history, experiences that you've dealt with friends, family, loved ones, whatever may be the case. If I can help you understand that being courageous and being brave and opening up and helping others open up and seek out that help that you need to have a better life and be happy. That's what we're trying to do with this, and we want to make it easier. I know, like we've mentioned, it's triggering for anyone that's dealt with these topics in mental health, and we understand that it's so hard, and there's a lot of stigma, bad stigma when it comes to it. First off, I want to say thank you, the queen of hype, the queen of positivity. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate you and what you've done. I know you've gone through a lot of things recently and over the last few months, and your positivity is unmatched by anybody I've seen through social media, and I commend you and I applaud you for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So a little bit about myself, right? So I've been in the military.
Yes, please tell us who
Yeah.
you are,
All
what you
right.
do, and all of the things that I think that he's wonderful, you guys.
Yeah, so I'm married. I have two fabulous boys. I have a 10-year-old. I have an 8-year-old who's turning 9 Christmas Day. He's also severely autistic, so we have a lot on our hands. But I'm also military. I've been in the military for 18 years, but I've also been active duty the last 5 years. I got active duty time for my deployments and training, so I have 10 more years food till retirement. And what I've been doing in the military outside of my normal job is I've been traveling to different units, talking to soldiers about suicide prevention. The thing about it is the Army is doing a great job at highlighting that there's an issue with rising percentages of suicide within the military. So me adding my personal experiences to the class or the training for the soldiers, I think really helps out. And I've gotten a lot of good feedback. What I do and what I say is not scientific. It's not educated in regards to a degree, no college in regards to psychology, sociology, any of that stuff. It's more, I'm giving you the full-on experience. I've been dealing with suicide or the topic since I was 8 years old. My dad's ex-wife, her sister's boyfriend shot himself in the head. And it's really hard I don't think they really had a good opportunity to learn or figure out how to really tell us what happened. But at 8 years old, I shouldn't know about suicide. But at the same time, I feel like they should, the surface of it, to understand that, like, you know, because my son, we had a family member die a couple years ago, just over 2 years ago, and it was like his uncle. So that wasn't from suicide related issues. It was health issues. But being able to explain to my 8-year-old, like, yo, your uncle passed away because of whatever, it was hard. It's hard for me to talk about that. It's hard for me to tell my son what it really means and this and that. And he kind of didn't understand it at first, but eventually he figured it out. And it definitely has some implications for the kids as they grow. So for me to learn about that at such a young age and then see it through high school, see it through military, and to be honest, listen, the reason why I have so much passion for this, I've had more battle buddies, as we call them, friends in the military, die by suicide more so than combat related injuries or death. And that's where the impact is for me, is I'm trying to save people one day at a time by openly discussing and talking about it and making it easier for people to see that it's okay to talk about it. There's no bad stigma. You can't lose your career. You can't lose promotions. You can't do anything as long as you're brave enough to seek help.
That is some wild stuff. And I that's a statistic I wasn't even aware of, that people take their own life more so in the military than lose their life out on the battlefield. That is just,
yeah. If you add it up, I mean, there's the whole 22 a day. People do 22 push-ups a day to represent, you know, suicide awareness and stuff like that. Great on people to do that. But if you think about it, if the stat really stuck to that math, 22 a day times 365, we've been at war, at least, you know, for the global war on terrorism, and then what we're doing now, 20 plus years. That's a lot of freaking deaths.
Jesus
in comparison
Christ.
to how many people have actually died in combat for these wars.
Right. And thank you again for your service. We just had Veterans Day. He is organizing this while also still being active, still being a father, a husband, fighting for the country, doing the things, y'all, and then trying to also raise awareness about people's mental health, all people. And I know some people don't like to get into the gender of it all, but men in general are more stigmatized as people that don't seek help. And why do you think that men also do have a higher suicide rate, especially older men, middle-aged men that retire and lose their jobs? Sometimes they are, I think that's like the biggest group of people right next to like teenagers, unfortunately, which is terrible. But because they are not told often growing up, men of all kinds, to handle their feelings with talking to a therapist or going to get help. You're taught to, oh, just go thug it out and just go beat somebody up or go punch a wall. But it's like punching this wall didn't take away the pain from the shit that happened with my family, whatever time ago.
Oh,
And that
exactly.
shit is
Yeah,
killing me.
exactly.
So, I see you and I feel you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, exactly. Like I grew up in the 90s, like late 80s, early 90s, and it was rub dirt on it, man. Like it was like, yo, don't show no tears. Like you got to show you're a hardcore, mean, lean fighting machine. Like men don't show emotions. We don't share our emotions. We just fucking cut through it, and that's it. And like my kid, oh, there's a spider. Cool. Like my kid would like scream right now, but I just seen a spider. Anyways, sorry. I happened to look down and I see it crawling towards me.
My whole heart. At least it wasn't in my world. Jesus.
I'm not that. So, okay, so there's a little show for you, the 90s baby as a man. Like, listen, there's a spider there versus.
Come on now. W90s.
But yeah, so that's another thing too, is that's another thing I'm trying to raise awareness for is too. And I'm also seeing a lot of women on TikTok posting stuff about, your man's working hard, show him the love, treat him like a king. Obviously women work hard too. There's equal rights now. The women are working as much as the men are. Women are having a lot more responsibility as well. But here's the thing: now that it's shared, the emotions need to be shared. Men, it's okay to speak up. Talk to your woman. Tell them how you feel. Tell them what you're going through. Be emotional about it. Don't be an asshole, but be emotional about it, and let them know what you truly feel. And it's okay. We're in a change of culture right now where emotions, feelings are acceptable and it's okay. Obviously, it's how you present it, right? Everything's dealt with tact. But it's also okay if you just happen to be bottled up and that pop comes off and you just let it fly. Like, it's okay. Unfortunately, not everyone will understand that, but hopefully your significant other, your family member, your loved one, your friend, somebody that you're confiding in really understands at the end of it that, like, it's not at them. It's just you just need to vent, right? So let's move on. Lauren, let's hear a little bit about your background. Let's hear about you. Like I said, I love everything that you've been doing since you came over to Kick. OG, partner first class, part-time creator, working with kids, and then recently moving over to full-time creator. Let's hear it all from you, and let's see what you got about that.
So here's a little bit about me. So I'm gonna start from college in general. I went to Wiley College for my undergrad. I graduated at 20 years old. I was the youngest person in my class to graduate. I graduated in 3 years even. Did all my summer classes, winter classes, had a full ride. Boo, bow, boom. So then, 21 years old, I started at Baylor University. I got my master's in social work, where I worked with children and family were my specialty. So my first internship was specifically with children who either had been a witness to a homicide, they had been extremely physically abused, or it had been allegations of sexual abuse. That was the only 3 types of clientele that I talked to when I was 21 years old. So I actually had a very famous case. I won't talk too much about it now, but there was a pretty predominant case that I was a part of, and it was crazy to look back and be like, oh my God, I actually had to talk to the kids that witnessed that freaking crazy homicide. It was nuts. So fast forward, I was a child therapist from 2017 up until a month ago. And meanwhile, while I'm doing child therapy, I've also discovered this new love for streaming just a year ago. So I used to do content creation like YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and I was like, none of this stuff, like all the editing and stuff, it's just not for me. So I was actually feeling rather depressed last October. I'd been in a really bad car accident, getting out of a bad relationship. I'd had 2 miscarriages. There was just so many
Last year October? I'm sorry, or this recent October?
Last year October.
Oh, last year October. Okay, got it. Thank you. I just want to make sure.
No, I got you, love. And there were just so many different crazy things happening. So I started on Twitch last October. I just turned my camera on, and then I'm thinking I'm just going to connect with people, feel good, whatever, meet some people to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Girl named Swamp Pipe Princess, she was like, there's this new platform called Kick, and they're actually going to be offering a 95-5 split. And they're going to have pretty much a lot of the same stuff as Twitch. So all this to say, came over to Kick, became the first Black woman to become affiliated with the platform, then to become verified, and then one of the first to be in the first class Kick partners. That's me, baby. And what do? By the way, I'm a variety streamer. I do play some games, so 9 times out of 10, I'm over here trying to just make sure this is the happiest place on Kick. You come to my streams, there's gonna be music, there's gonna be good energy. We're gonna try to help the smaller streamers be more known and welcome to Kick and just be a good person. I
Yeah.
do a lot of charity streams.
Like I said, the queen of hype, the queen of positivity. Thank you so much for that breakdown. That's awesome. That's interesting because it's a quick come up, it's a quick recognition, but you know what? You worked your ass off. You did the grind and you got where you are today because of that. And I appreciate you. And you're not being some of these pick me's, and it's awesome to see that you're putting in the time, you're putting the effort. But that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. How are you doing, by the way, recently with not only just your transition from part-time to full-time career, but also with the grieving point of your father's death? That touches close to me as well, not with my father, but with my grandmother, who was basically my mother, who raised me as a young age. She passed away in July, and she basically helped get me onto video games at age 4, beating Zelda with Link to the Past for the first time in my life, which then I passed that tradition down to my son, who did it at age 4 as well. And so I understand the grieving and the grief that you're going through from a different level of parent, right? But either way, I want to know how you're doing with that, and I hope you're doing okay so far. Suicide and mental health is not what you see it to be.
Right.
Lauren's still grieving. I know she is, but she's putting on a smile for everyone. And someone like her could potentially be on suicidal ideation or attempting, and we will never know it. But this way, and this is kind of my point I'm bringing, is you never know, but always ask that person, because that one person that
Right.
you ask might actually open up and tell you. How are you with everything?
Absolutely. And thank you for saying that, because it's something I think I was saying as I was promoting our podcast last week, is that check on your strong friends, y'all. The ones that be smiling and joking, and you go to them all the time and be like, oh, well, can I get some help? Or I just dated this crazy guy and I need some advice. And, they feel like you're well enough to be counted on still when you still are going through things. So thank you for asking. And to answer your question, I'm doing very well overall. Do I tell people when people ask you, are you okay? I say no. I just say I'm doing the best I can, though, because that's how I was raised. In the same way you said you did video games, or your grandmother showed you video games, and you do that with your son as well. Me and my dad, that's how I got to where I am now. All the music I listened to, like Linkin Park and Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and all those different things, I grew up listening to because that's what he did. He played guitar, he played piano, he played violin, he played like everything. He was a music person, and so was I. Actually couldn't sleep, allegedly. This is what they tell me. I don't know, I'm a baby. But they said I wouldn't fall asleep unless I was listening to music videos. So
I
music
remember
is a
music
big part of my
videos.
life. I actually got a full ride for college for singing. That's why I was able to pay for my undergrad.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thank you for being in the choir. So that's why I graduated so early. 'Cause I was like, shit, I'll pay for the damn summer classes out of pocket, and I'll got my full ride.
Yeah, right.
That being said, though, yeah, it's hard. We used to play all kinds of video games, because he used to have this little makeshift shift office, and there was a stack of, you remember Game Informer? Of course you remember Game
Oh
Informer,
yeah, oh yeah,
the
yeah.
magazines. So he had a stack of them, and we used to be small enough to just sit on the magazines and watch him play like Final Fantasy and
Yeah.
Valkyrie Pro. He was a JRPG person, so am I. I
Legend
like
of
Dragon
Mana.
Quest and
Yeah.
yes, all those games, Chrono Cross,
Right.
so many different things. So as much as we're gonna miss him. My dad had been sick for over 20 years. My dad got sick when I was 8 years old. I'm 29.
Oh wow.
So one thing I tell my mom a lot is, like, we think about this is the time that God finally told us, no, like, he's not coming home. He's not coming out of the hospital. But there's been so many times that he has been in the hospital that God gave us a yes, like he is gonna come home. At some point, you gotta get your no. So as much as I don't like it, I do like that he's at peace, and I know that he's not in pain, and there's no more poking and prodding and just all the stuff. And for those that aren't probably aware, my dad did have renal failure, where he had 2 different kidney transplants, where my best friend mom gave him a kidney transplant in 2007, and my mom also gave him a kidney in 2017. However, the kidney was failing, and he also had COVID, and he had pneumonia, and just a lot of things that were happening. He just had lymphedema at the top of the year. I think God was just like, you know what, we're just gonna go ahead and take you home. Like, they will figure it out without you. They gonna not like it, but they can figure it out at this point. So we figuring it out.
Oh, that's good. That's got to be rough, man. Living, with your father 20 years of the sickness, and then, like, I can't tell you. I mean, so like, I can't even have words for it. Like, I felt a lot of grief with my grandma, because I had flown out there July 1st to go visit. And it was actually a year since I moved here and went back home to visit. And I didn't have a lot of time to visit everyone. And I did squeak in about
Right.
3 or 4 hours with her, like, one morning I think it was on the 3rd of January. My wife and my oldest one went out to California with her family real quick because we had a lot of things going on. And she had mentioned about going to a movie, and she wanted to see Super Mario Brothers because they had just came out. And I told her, I said I would love to take her, but I'm only here for a week because I got to go back home for work. And then my family is going to be here the whole month, or was back home for the whole month. And they're supposed to fly back at the end, and I felt something was going on with her. Like I knew she's been sick for a while. She was actually, I don't think she was supposed to live past 2021 because she had stage 4 kidney failure or disease, and then she had 2 strokes December 2020, and they gave her like 6 months to live, but she ended up surviving until July 2023. Strong, stubborn. I get it. It's a family trait. It is what it is. And I felt bad because when we were doing the funeral services, my aunt had talked to me about how she felt bad because she didn't take my grandma out to go see the movies because she wanted to go see the movies. And like I'm like, oh my god, I'm the same way. Like it sucks. I'm so like upset. Like survivor guilt is also another thing for suicidal ideations and attempts. Is what I'm trying to get at. Survivor's guilt. It doesn't even have to be that you watch someone die or that you were in combat and you feel guilty because you could have done something to save your battle buddy, or survivor's guilt. Anything has everything to do with anything that you feel guilty about that you could have done, and but ultimately nothing would have changed the outcome.
Exactly. More time you could have spent. I should have been there every day instead of every other day. I should have spent longer time at the house.
At
That
the
wasn't going to change the outcome of
Exactly.
it all.
My buddy, his mom just recently passed away. So he lost his mother this year, or earlier this year. He said he went through some of the darkest times I've ever been through in my life earlier this year, and it sucked. He said you push yourself away from people because you feel like a burden to them with your grief. But I'm here as proof to say that you do matter. My mom may be gone, but she lives with me, and she's watching me every step I take. I got to make her proud. Hey, listen, bro, you, Lauren, everyone that has lost a loved one, a father, mother, a grandfather, anybody that was close to you, absolutely understand that no matter where they are right now, they are watching and they are very proud of everything that you guys do and accomplish. Survivor's guilt is such a it's a bitch, isn't it? But that's great to hear that you're accepting what's going on with your life. And when people ask you how you're doing, you're telling them, no, I'm not okay, but I'm doing the best I can. And at least you're being upfront and honest with people. And how they respond is actually helpful for you as well to understand that like they do care. I mean, just the simple fact that they ask you, how are you doing? Obviously shows that they care. And that's awesome. And that's really what I wanted to talk about too, is like the first time I've ever became someone's silent angel. And the reason why I say that is because you never know that one person might randomly just ask you how you're doing, or ask you to join them on something, randomly, or just reach out and say, hey, what's going on? That one person might be the reason why you stop your plans to commit suicide or have those ideations. Because a lot of times people tend to feel like they're just alone. And like Thebes were saying earlier, feeling like a burden on some people, and that it's easier just to go away than it is to whatever, right? Which is wrong. That's actually the opposite. In 2008, 2009, I was deployed and I was in Iraq, walking to the DFAC, which is a dining facility on the base that I was at, that was actually providing beer for Super Bowl. I can't remember which Super Bowl it was. It was 2009. It was Arizona Cardinals and Pittsburgh Steelers, and they were allowing us to have a maximum of 2 beers at night, which is kind of unheard of for the most part during that time, because they want us to stay lean, mean, fighting machines, and not drunk and high. So I noticed one of my buddies was walking back to his room with his head down and stuff like that, and I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, yo, where are you going? You already got your 2 beers or what? He's like, nah. He's like, too much of the line, too long of a line. I'm just done with everything. And I didn't really think of like I'm done with everything as in like life. I was thinking like just the celebrations or the the event that was going on. Like I was thinking that. But for some reason, instinctively, I asked him. I said, well, if you want, we can watch the show or the game together. And in my room, because I have the cable, I was just gonna go grab the beers. And he's like, no. He's like, yeah, that's fine. He's like, it works actually perfectly. And I was like, okay, cool. So then a year later, he actually was still in Fort Lewis, going through some therapies and getting help for things that he was dealing with, the demons that he was dealing with. And he called me that year, or like a year later, saying, like, listen, that night that you asked me to go hang out with you, you could have easily just walked by me and not said anything. He's like, I was actually planning on going and blow my head off with our M16s that we had that evening, because I didn't feel like anyone cared. He's like, and you stepped up and you said what you said, and you had invited me to hang out. And that night I ended up dismissing my plans because somebody did care about me. And he was a good friend of mine the whole time anyways. Like it wasn't anything that was out of the norm, or it wasn't like we were good friends that whole time. So it was just something that I'd never even noticed or realized. One, I was 21 years old, so I didn't really have the mentality of thinking like that. But two, again, it goes to show that like even the most positive people, the most uplifting, the people with the most smiles can also still be the ones that fall victim to suicide.
You just have no idea usually. Like it remind me of a story. One of my closest friends, she's like a sister to me, who also just was always just happy go lucky, just, silly. And she was like, oh, let's go thrift shopping tomorrow or something. And I remember we were supposed to do the thrift shopping at 2. And I'm calling her 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, calling her 5 o'clock, calling her. I'm like, what's going on? don't hear from her all day. And I'm like, something is happening. Like, this person is not like this. And so then I found out that she had a suicide attempt. And thank God her mom found her. But, she made an attempt on her life. And her mom found her in the bathroom and took her to the hospital. So that's where she was for several days recovering. And I know one of my deepest regrets is because I just didn't know at the time. I was only 18 years old, was when she was released. I wasn't angry with her, but I remember I did tell her, I was trying to give her some tough love, and I was like, hey, don't do that shit again.
Right.
In a conversation. Looking back now, I would never say it like that again, 18 versus 29, and actually having a mental health background and just life. But I just meant it as like, you can just talk to me. Like, I'll help you, I'll be there. But her thing was like, you alone cannot save me from depression. You can't save me from borderline personality, like all these different challenges that I have. What you can do is be there for me when I'm telling you I'm having a problem, and don't say like, hey, don't do that shit again. Just
Right.
be there for me when I'm having my problems.
I'll be honest, like from the military side of things and the way I was raised in the 90s, don't do that shit again probably would have helped me, honestly, because like there's some people that need that tough love. And I think some people will understand, like when you say it like that, there's a little bit of passion behind it, because like you care, you know what I'm saying? You care. So like it's nothing that I don't think there's nothing wrong with how you said it or what you said. I think it just depends on the person that's receiving it. But at the same time, everyone understands, like, yo, thank you. You're showing you care. You're showing the passion that like our relationship matters, our time matters. And so, and that's where the message that I've been pushing along too is, if someone pops in your head, call them. Don't text message. I mean, you can text them to see if they're available, right? You can message them and say, hey, are you available? And if they don't answer, just fucking call them. Like call them. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Call them, because that one phone call could be the showstopper of what they're planning on doing.
Yep,
and
that's so true.
that's one thing that they teach us in the Army is the very first. So we call it ACE. ACE, ask, care, escort. And the very first thing is ask, right? And what they tell us to do is they don't tell us to ask if they're planning on hurting themselves, because what does that mean? That can mean a lot of different things. That can mean emotional, spiritually, physically. It could just mean I'm just going to go, I don't know, cut my wrist, which, we all know that's deathly, fatal.
Yeah,
But it could be also, you can survive from it, right? Depending on how you do it. Anyways, but the thing is they always tell us, you have to ask them, are you planning on killing yourself? If so, how, when, and what are you planning on doing? Because this way you can kind of like, one, the moment you ask that question, people are typically, they get staggered, like, oh, holy shit, you're noticing something. Like, and like it starts making them start thinking about different things, right? And so it really matters how you say things, and words mean things. So for someone to say after someone surviving suicide, don't do that shit to me again, that's just showing that you care, that like, you really care about that relationship. And if you need something help, like if you need some help, you can talk to me and we can go find the resources that you need.
And don't feel nervous about getting help, or rather, don't feel like nobody judge you. If you go over there and do command resources, it don't mean you plan on hurting yourself. But if you are having some thoughts, or somebody you care about is having some thoughts, just go look and see like what your resources are to help. Because you can also reach out to me, you can reach out to your friends and family and different people like that. But if you cannot get a hold of somebody, utilize those phone numbers and the resources that are available to you, because those are people that are trained professionally to help you.
Right. And like I said, like my DMs are always open. Just know that I'm not going to give you education advice, because I don't have education behind it. I don't have a degree. I never went to school for it. This is all from personal experiences and what I've learned and what I've seen and what has helped and what hasn't helped. I have had battle buddies, like I said, commit suicide over the course of my 18 years in the military, and then also friends from high school, and also family members from my dad's previous marriages. The biggest thing is like she said, it's a lot braver for you to reach out and seek help than it is for you to fully commit to suicide. I look at this, when I kind of came up with this on a whim yesterday, and during the DomCast with Player 2 Gaming, is if you literally look at a tree, right? What does it have? It's got a trunk and it's got a bunch of branches. Well, if you look at us as a trunk, each individual person here is a trunk, right? Those branches that grow are your associations, your relationships, whoever you meet, whoever you know. You have an impact. They're your branches. They're growing all over you. The moment you commit suicide, all those relationships are cut and they're done. Right? And that's how much of the impact you have on your just one life, is those hundreds of thousands of branches that you have attached to your tree trunk is what's going to, it's going to affect somebody. They may not know what happened to you instantly, because it may be a friend from a distant time period of, 10 years ago, whatever may be the case. But I tell you what, by the time they find out that when they think about you, and they want to reach out and they want to find you, the moment they get that phone call from your mom or from somebody that says, hey, yeah, he's gone, he passed away, it's still going
Jesus.
to affect somebody. So that's what I'm saying. As a tree trunk, our age keeps
Right.
going, and our people that we meet, our people that we engage with, our people that we get associated to, that we build relationships with, are our tree branches. Our families are main branches, right? And then you got the tree branch that kind of branch off and everything. Everyone's going to find out something happened to you eventually, and it's still going to have a longer impact than you think. So
Yeah.
if you are in a suicidal ideation, you are in the planning process, if you are having these things, please reach out for help. It's more brave and it's stronger for you to reach out for help than it is for you to take your life. And everyone's gonna be impacted by it. And I swear to you, there's somebody out there that does care about you, and it's more than one person. I guarantee it.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because that's another big thing is that people do feel like, well, nobody's going to care if I'm gone. And it's just like you're saying, every person you've interacted with in some way you've touched, even if you got like family that might not be living, or a lot of your close friends have also gone on themselves. There's somebody out there that's going to miss you walking down the street, being at the grocery store, being at the gas station. Like one person out there is gonna miss you and care that you're gone, and that's a big thing about stream world that
Yeah.
I'm realizing, because I am such an extreme kind of empath. If something were to happen to any of y'all, I too will feel devastated and feel like, oh my god, like so and so is not in chat anymore. But it's not only that they're not in chat, that means that they are no longer, like, there's somebody I actually haven't seen in a few months that me and my sister know. He's a bit older, he was like in his 70s, and we honestly haven't seen him in like a couple months. And this is kind of reminding me, like, I need to check in and see if I can get in touch with that person, because it does make me feel like, dang, what if something has happened to that person and we just have no idea? Because I would be devastated by some of y'all if something happened. Come on now.
Right. Exactly. That's a
Thank
good
you,
segue too,
Akira.
because we're going to talk about how your mental health is from transitioning from part-time creator to full-time. But before we get to that part of it, you're right. Every time I've had these DomCast episodes, I feel like I don't know if it's like something that I'm doing, which it could have a small part of it as far as doing these podcast conversations. But every time after I post about the podcast and how well it went or whatever, next thing you know, I see a bunch of our creator friends talking about they lost a loved one to suicide, or somebody in their community, and it's depressing and it's sad, and I wish they could have heard our conversations on this. And that's why we really want to push this out and really want to get this going, because I feel like just having this conversation and letting people know that we are who we are and that we're here to help and we want to spread positivity, and knowing that we have a community that is willing to listen. That's what I want to do with this, right? And that's the thing too. If you have a bunch of people that are in your circle and they are not willing to listen to you, you're in the wrong circle. Get a different circle. You need people that are willing to listen to you regardless of what the situation's going on, that they're willing. Now, I don't think it's hard to say this, because everyone's time is valuable, and we can't necessarily just drop everything at it. But at the same time, we need to be able to identify certain things that can help us drop it on a dime and help out, right? So I don't know, Lauren, have you heard of risk factors and warning signs? Do you know the huge difference between the two?
I know a couple, like, sometimes when you see somebody like that has been contemplating suicide, and this is a hard one to tell, but I've noticed it with my friend's brother, unfortunately. Sometimes they'll be happier, or they'll be doing like almost overly like well, and things are going well, and then the next thing I know, my friend's brother is taking his own life with a gun in the bathroom. And but he was so happy, like he had been like having all these spells and stuff, but all of a sudden he was like extremely escalated. So I think he might have actually been experiencing some manic depressive situations where he was actually very high, seeming happy, but he was about to crash lower than ever. So that's something I noticed. I noticed when people start talking about giving things away. That's a big thing. If somebody's doing, like, all of a sudden they're giving up their whole stuff with like no plans or nothing. Sometimes you could just be like me, and life is just lifing right now, and I don't know if I want to live. Or it could be a very serious, like, why are you just up and giving up your apartment and the lease isn't up for 7 more months? See,
Right.
that's the kind of
Or they just bought a new
that I'm
Escalade and all of a sudden they want to give it away to somebody. Yeah.
right.
Right. So those are
So
huge.
that's just a couple things, but
Yeah.
break it down for us, Dom.
Yeah, those are some huge warning signs, right? Anyway, so warning signs are like some of those big identifiers, those big key things. Prized possessions. It could be heirlooms. It could be a brand new car that they just bought. It could just be concerning texts, posts, emails. Like earlier, I was talking about my friend when he's like, "I'm just done with it all." Like, I didn't catch that as a warning sign, because it wasn't like it was tied into the event that was going on. So I'm assuming it was just that, right? Or sleep disturbance, people not sleeping as much as they do. I would say, so giving away things, increased anger, increased alcohol use, feeling hopeless and helpless, right? A lot of times people are talking about being a burden, right? So those are some warning signs. The risk factors are kind of like things that lead up to warning signs or things that could accumulate, but not necessarily mean that they're suicidal, right? So risk factors meaning like, there's prior suicide attempts. Like it's usually a culmination of multiple risk factors that lead to warning signs or can lead you to believe that they might be suicidal, right? So here's a couple examples: is prior suicide attempts, family history of suicide, access to lethal means, which that kind of is up in the air because we're in America, guns are pretty much a big thing, right? And there's not a lot of states that really do make it difficult for you to get guns. But so like access to lethal means isn't
I have a
necessarily
few.
a
They're all
full-on
registered.
proof that it's suicidal. It's just, some people are just gun people, and then that's okay, right?
Right.
Drug and alcohol misuse. If it's somebody that doesn't normally partake in heavy drinking or drugs, and then all of a sudden you start seeing them being a heavy drinker or doing drugs or whatever may be the case, obviously there's some risk factor, right? But it may not be suicidal. It just may be that they finally got relief of some kind of stress that was preventing them from being able to have fun in life. But you know what I'm saying? Which I'm not saying do drugs and it's fun. I'm just saying like that's just some people's mentalities, right? I'll be honest. I've only done weed, and I've never done anything else, and I don't plan on doing it. It's just not my cup of tea. When I retire, I'll probably be smoking weed. But anyways,
Amen. Just a little something,
right.
get your tongue
Gotta
wet.
wait until I'm out of the army to be able to do that stuff. But
Oh, yeah.
limited or no support is a risk factor. So people feeling like they're left out all the time. They don't have friends, people to talk to. Financial stress. Well, everyone has financial stress. So again, like one of these risk factors doesn't mean that they're suicidal. It just means that there's a potential increased possibility of it, right? Past trauma.
Right.
So past trauma, like I had a soldier that this was a major risk factor for her. This one and the next one, relationship difficulties. She saw her ex-boyfriend. They had some issues going on. He drove up. They used to work together, so they drove up to the parking lot. He shot himself in the head and right in front of her. So obviously past trauma. It was hard for her to really stay in the military because she couldn't shoot a gun anymore because she was terrified of what she saw.
Right.
Relationship issues, obviously difficulties. There were some domestic issues there, whatever may be the case. So those are just two things, right? So, but I asked her. It shouldn't have taken me too long to ask her, but I did ask her even because she was one of my soldiers. I said, "Are you planning on killing yourself? I know everything that's going on, and it sounds like it's really abrupt and blunt and rude to be that way, but sometimes you have to be to show them that,
Just
like,
that
hey,
bold, right?
right."
Just gotta ask straight up. Yep.
And isolating behavior, behavioral health issues. So there's a lot of things that are going on with risk factors. Risk factors, like I said, it's kind of like, so we use the green light, red light, and yellow light kind of like factors when it comes to when you should probably be more concerned than others. Risk factors are the yellow light, basically, like kind of just giving you like an eyebrow raise, kind of like, let's keep an eye on things, check and see how they're doing, see what their answers are, and get to know them, right, a little bit more better to maybe identify. So the more risk factors you have, obviously the increased chances of suicide. Is warning signs is where you really need to be concerned, because any one of these could be the factor that causes them to go over and start planning their suicide, and we want to make sure we get to that point of stopping them before they even get to that point, is what I meant. So there's that. That's what we go through when it comes to the Army. That's a little tidbit portion of it. We have like 50 slides of a lot of things that we can go through, but I'm not going to take you guys' time to go over through all that. But what I'm saying is, now we can move into the mental health during the holidays / veterans. I don't know if a lot of you guys may have seen my post earlier on Twitter as I requoted Lauren's requote of my quote and this and that, and she had a great she had something in there that really reminded me, and she was talking about the holidays. And most people can't be home for the holidays because they're either on a work trip, deployed veterans, right? Deployed, or they're overseas and they haven't seen. It could be there is such thing. I don't. A lot of people may not know this, but there's an accompanied overseas tour and there's an unaccompanied overseas tours, which means basically they either can take their family or they cannot take their family over there, and they have to be there for 3 years, 2 or 3 years, depending on the deployment. So there's times where like they may be in the middle of a mission, or they may not have the funds to travel back home during the holidays. And so what does that put on a lot of veterans, or a lot of people that are doing a civilian work that requires them to be away from home during the holidays? That raises a lot of stress, because then relationship issues emerge because you're gone all the time, or you can't make it back, and we don't have money for presents, we don't have this, we don't have that. There's a lot of fights that go through when it comes to relationship during the holidays. Veterans can't be home because they're out fighting wars, they're out fighting terrorists, they're out fighting doing this. Thankfully, they do have time to set aside for them to go have a nice meal where they're located at, but there is a small percentage that are out isolated in areas that they don't have that opportunity, and all they get is local food that isn't necessarily custom and courtesies and traditional for them to eat during the holidays. But what I'm saying is, thank a soldier, thank anybody that's away from family. Make sure you show them love. Make sure you reach out to them, ask how they're doing. Ask them if they need anything. If you can provide anything for them, whether it's perishable items to a food bank, or your kid's school that's asking for you to donate perishable items, canned food, good. Do all that stuff to help them, because that stuff goes somewhere. StackUp.org is a great organization for veterans through gaming. I raised over $14,000 with them in the last 3 years, and we've we've managed to get, veterans that are retired out of the Army, out of the military, whatever. International soldiers also, they work with a New York college called Manhattan College, got a bunch of new gaming gear for our donations in their new veterans center over in New York. We've had a couple fathers that had a kid that's Down syndrome, doesn't have any friends, but he does have one friend that has video games, and he walks all the way to his house to go play video games every day. And Stack Up managed to get video games for him, so that he didn't have to walk to his friend's house to play all the time. So there's great things that happen that StackUp.org does to help with, and they also help out with the gift services. They call it STOP. They provide PTSD services, therapy sessions, suicide assistance, therapy assistance. And so there's a lot of different resources out there that are very VA, Army friendly or military friendly. Please make sure you guys reach out. If you guys need information on that, please DM me. We can give you some more information, or you can look up stackup.org and they can give you more of that. I also raise money for Tuesday's Children's, which is the organization that helps provide resources for the families that lost family members, soldiers, emergency services personnel during 9/11. And so there's a lot of different resources out there that can help, that you guys can help if you guys can. If you can't, it's okay. But know that we've done everything we can to help raise this awareness. And this is my next level of leveling up, is by just having these conversations with people like Lauren and other content creators, and showing you guys that we are human as well, and we care and we love you guys, and we want to see you guys succeed and thrive. And so during the holidays, it's just really it's tough. I've seen a lot of depression comes through no matter where you're at in the world. And I don't know about you, Lauren, but I love family time during the holidays. And if I can't be with my family, that's like when I start having demons fight me in my head, and I have to tell them to fuck off. And it's hard. And so what do you typically do with your family? And now this is the first year without your father, unfortunately.
Right.
And so,
Right.
I know you're
So
dreading
things
that,
are
and
gonna
there's
be
a
a
lot of stresses
little
going on with that.
different this year. So that's why one thing that I really enjoy about my family is that we all spread out. So we could be doing something in up north in one of the cities up north, like Sacramento, San Francisco. We got family in Tennessee, Texas, Atlanta. But we have family all over. So what I'm looking forward to this year is, I know that we usually do Thanksgiving together as a family, but I'm going to spend time with my cousins this year.
So this kind of segues into the next part about content creating is an up and downhill battle, especially when it comes to emotions and it comes to mental health awareness, suicide. How many streamers in the last year have you seen being posted about people committing suicide live on stream because somebody was bullying them? You know what I'm saying? Like there is it doesn't make any sense to me that people want to bully people into freaking mental health issues, suicide awareness, and it frustrates me that people are willing to spend so much more energy on negative bullshit than being able to smile and give them the floor for success. Why? It doesn't make any sense. And so there's these ups and downs. I've had subs over here, and then one month I have them down here, and then the other, like everyone goes through. There's even bigger streamers that are out there that go from subs up here to then the next month they're like barely right here. They got nothing at all,
Oh
and then
yeah,
you
it be
know
like that.
especially those that, like, you're gonna learn this like heavily in the next few months, Lauren, because you just entered the world of full-time content creating,
Right.
right?
Which was not by choice, by the way. I didn't really delve into that too much, but
Right.
I did unfortunately lose my license, because my clinical license, because when my dad was in the hospital, they did tell me, like, oh, by the way, you need to register your license. So I went to register, and they're like, oh, well, it's been 6 years. You have to do a whole new application. So I'm still waiting on that application, even though I sent it in 6 weeks ago. They said it takes 6 weeks. I sent it in well over 6 weeks ago. They claim they still haven't processed it, but it hasn't been confirmed or denied. However, my job only gave me 60 days to get it confirmed or denied,
Oh
and
my goodness.
still nothing. So they gave me they gave me unemployment. They gave me my last check, and I've never lost a job before. I've never been fired from a job, so this is the first time for everything right now. So I'm gonna do my little unemployment until maybe January, and then January I'm gonna try to find something else to do, because my license should be hopefully by
I
next week
hope
or
I
the
hope
week
it
after. I don't know.
I hope it gets done quickly, man. That doesn't make any sense
I
either.
don't
Like
want
it's
people to think that, oh, she just quit and she's just jumping
either way,
in.
but
No, if it
I've
was
seen.
up to me, I would be working my 9 to 5 and doing my
Yeah.
7 p.m. to 12 a.m. shift that I
Right.
did for 7 to 8 months. But you see, nobody will, not nobody, but some people forget that shit. And they
Yeah.
will tell you, oh, you're a diversity hire, or you're a favorite of Kick. That's why you got chosen.
No,
No,
you got that grind
people.
going, baby.
I
I got
put
that.
in
Yeah.
hours
Yeah.
of time that y'all didn't
You
put
you
in, and y'all
have
don't have the time. I made the time.
Yeah, you have listen, I applaud you on that. I mean, when I first started streaming, which honestly, my streamiversary is 3 years next month. And when I first started streaming, I did the same thing. I was working. My wife was like insanely mad at me for how much time I put in, because we both didn't really understand it as a business. She thought it was just a hobby, and it's worked out. We've got some successes. We've got some failures, but you know what? You only learn from your failures, and you only succeed from your failures. So
Yes.
bring the failures all on. I'm ready for it. But
And you're killing it,
and
babe.
thank you so
Like,
much.
y'all are really killing it out here in these streets. I see Shay Barbie. There's so many people out here that don't give themselves enough credit. So sometimes instead of waiting for vouchers, people, because I know vouching is a big thing in the streaming world, which I will always say vouching is just a grain of salt. What really matters is your
How you
merit
perform.
and the time you put in. Like if you're putting in the time, the work, the dedication, the effort, he got on Kick Merch, all types of stuff, people are going to take notice whether you want them to or not. Just keep going. I tell y'all where that Kick Merch. I'm telling y'all, I ain't trying to sell it, but people that get featured, you see people get featured more in Kick Merch. It's just a fact of life. A
Exactly.
kick.
Exactly. And that's the thing is like it's all about the grind. And like I was saying, like even if it was by choice, I've seen people go from making the choice to leave their full-time job to making this a full-time job, and they've succeeded. I've also seen it the other way around where they just
Right.
where they quit their full-time job thinking this was going to be, the next best thing, and then it didn't work out, and then they're back to doing jobs. But
What I always tell y'all, I say you choose to go full time, but the community does not choose to go full time
right.
with you. So
Mhm.
if you are in a position where you can be like, hey, I've got X amount of savings, like myself personally, where if something were to happen and I just can't do anything for some months, I'm gonna be okay for at least a couple months or two. But I just would not be just up and feeling comfortable not working at all. Like I'd be looking for a job right now if it wasn't for the way the situation is set up, where I am contracted, where I'm paid, to stream X amount of hours a month. And then I do well in subscriptions and donations only by the grace of God. But just like you're saying, I could have a month when, on average, I'll be very straightforward. On average, ever since I started on Kick, I've made about $5,000 every month, just period. Some months I've had more than that. Some months we've had a little bit less than that. But on average, it's always been about 5K. Now, if we have a month where all of a sudden, I'm doing 3K or $1,200 or something. That's still cool. That's still good. But I would then have to adjust from going to from a $5,000 to $7,000 a month income to 3,000 and hope that I've been saving appropriately to combat the ups and downs of it, because it's not always going to be the same.
Right. Right. And and that's the thing, like you said, by the grace of God, like I'm not like, I'll be upfront, guys. I'm not religious. I've never really been religious, but I do believe that there's reasons for things that happen,
Right.
and reasons why you are at the place you are at for the decisions you make, but also for a higher power that put you there because it helped you influence your decision making. Whatever, that's my thoughts. But everyone has a religion, and I don't hold anyone against their religion or anything
Right.
like
Not
that.
hold
So
anybody accountable who ain't.
there is always something that is similar in when it comes to religion and how things work, and that's really what it comes down to, right? Like I don't my ups is having you all here. My ups are having people in chat, vibing out, having community games, doing things that are just fun, right? Like I don't do this for, I mean, the cash is great, but it's not, I don't get a lot of it. I don't harp on it. Like I have goals for the month, but I don't
Yeah,
like
yeah,
let that
yeah.
I don't let that get me down if I don't reach any of them.
If you don't hit that, and we were just talking about how
Yeah.
there are people though, and
Hey, yo,
some of
Pandaskis, what
y'all
up, man?
favorite streamers, their attitude completely changes when they are not getting subscriptions.
My thing is like since I've been back from my class that I went to last month for the whole month, and I've had a lot of time to think about it. I hit you up. I shot my shot and asked you about this, and you said yes. And like I was telling people earlier, like that's what it comes down to. You just gotta shoot your shot. If you don't, you're gonna miss every single one of them.
And I hope you know, Dominator, because I always have to tell this, especially people that's been very supportive. If you had never gifted me a single sub, the answer is yes, because I looked at your content. If you had gifted me a whole bunch of subs, I still could have said no. Because I actually looked at your content though and took the time to be like, okay, wait a minute. He's not crazy. He's not going to be possessive. He's a father. He's a husband. He fights for the country. That sounds cool and it's a great topic. But there are people that have, gifted or have done things expecting me to now treat them a certain way or to come to their thing. And I'm like, oh, like you're a nasty person. I don't care if you gifted, like you are a nasty person. So the answer is no. So thank you again for even reaching out to me.
Oh, I'm honored. I'm honored. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, I mean, everyone's hypercritical of themselves. Like I said, I think my content's subpar. It could be better, and I'm working on that. But the whole month that I took last month, really helped me kind of really refocus what I want to do with my content. And gaming is part of it. It's a huge part of it. It's what started out to be. But getting back to the community games is what I really needed to do. But at the same time, I also have this passion for suicide awareness, mental health awareness. And I've seen it, like, here's the thing, is like we see it all over Twitter, we see it all over Facebook, we see it all over other social medias of people talking about mental health as a real thing. Honestly, to me, like, what are you, like, those that are posting about that are really raising the awareness of it, but what are they doing about it? And this is where I
Uh-huh.
feel like this is what the content space has been missing, is something like this. There's no podcast out there right now of them actually having a full on conversation, being unfiltered, talking about suicide, and having the community as a part of it. To me, thank you for having this conversation with me. And like I said, I'm very honored to have you here. I'm very happy that you said yes, because anxiety always gets the best of me when I'm waiting for the response. There's a couple people that I've reached out to that haven't really fully responded, which is okay because I know people are busy.
Mhm.
But that's who I am. I'm not the person that's going to sit there and be like, oh, fuck you, this and that, after 3 minutes of no response.
Right,
I'm the type of person that's like,
right,
listen, I'm gonna reach out. If they respond, cool. If they don't, I get it. They're busy. They got a lot of things going on. I'm not gonna sit here
right.
and be that type of person, right? With that being said, I wanna thank you for that. But one of our last topics that I had going on was your experiences with kids about bullying and slash suicide. How do we talk to our kids about that? How do we navigate that? How do we get them to understand like what they're going through is okay, and it's okay to feel those emotions, but at the same time, it's also even better if you talk to your parents or you talk to a teacher or you talk to somebody to help them break that barrier, because suicide rate for kids is also rising, unfortunately.
Yes, it is. For young kids, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. And it's just like you said, like you based off your personal experiences in life, you're like 8 years old. I was already exposed. I was in the know to this thing called suicide. I don't think I was exposed to the concept of suicide maybe until I was like 12. And I remember having thoughts and feelings, especially in middle school, when like my dad would be sick or things would be happening. And I think maybe it'd be better if I was dead or wasn't or if we all were dead and weren't having to deal with all this crazy stuff. Like I remember having thoughts like that and experiences. And admittedly I am the person that tried to cut herself because I saw other people doing it. But I'm gonna tell you something, if people, and I'm supposed to say with people that do self-harm, they're serious. Like even if you feel like people are just doing it for attention, there's a reason like they're using that to get some sort of attention, quote unquote. Because I tried it, y'all put that knife to me. I said, oh, wait a minute. I can't do this. I said, this ain't for me. So was I hurting and having a hard time? Hell yeah. But that was not gonna be the release for me. So I'm now when I have had to talk to, because I have been in, the field for 10 years, 6 years specifically as a child therapist, I'm very candid about it. And I hate to have to bring it up with a 6 year old that kinda gets it, but kinda doesn't. And so one way that I do, especially with like the little ones, it's like, do you ever more so like not have thoughts about like killing yourself? Because they do say that kids under 10 years old don't fully have a concept of death. And like 10 years old is like just now when you're starting to understand like death means like you're not coming back. But you could have kids be like, hey, like have you ever had like a feeling where you would want to go to sleep and never wake up again? And some kids will understand that because that's kind of for younger kids, that's kind of their understanding of what death is.
Right.
So if you put it in terms that they understand, sometimes you might get a yes, and then you can kind of deeper explore, well, tell me what are the things that have made you feel that way, or even in their own life, has anybody you know ever gone to sleep and never woken up again? And that can open the door to either possibly somebody has taken their own life, or at least they have a kind of a baseline of what it means to not be in the living. But especially for my teenagers, I did get a lot of kids that would self harm by cutting. Some would burn themselves, and just always making them feel like, hey, I get it. Like I see you. I get that I don't get it. Like especially for me who is not a self-harm kind of person. So share your experience and let me know like what that does for you, and coming at it from like a really non-judgmental place, like when they are hurting themselves and just offering other ulterior alternatives, and even asking like, like what is something that you've tried instead of cutting yourself or self harm, or like whatever the case may be, what are some things you would like to try? Who are the people that you can, this is more so the safety planning, who are the people that you can reach out to if you're feeling like you want to do that, but then you want to also try to stop yourself. Like, is there a person you can call, a song you can listen to? Huge thing for me always with the kids, because music is also my big thing, was having a survival playlist. So I'd be like, let's pick all of our favorite songs when we feeling like we want to hurt ourselves and having the worst day ever. We're gonna listen to all these songs and try to have like a change of mood. And then there's also the serious plan with, after we try all the things, the meditation, we've talked about the things that are bothering you and all of those things, you still feeling that way. Okay, baby girl, let's go to the hospital. Let's go to the hospital, because you can't, if you can't say you're gonna keep yourself safe, I'm gonna go with you to the hospital. We're gonna sit there all 12 hours with you until they tell me I got to go, because that's what I used to do. And then, the parents or foster parents or whoever come and handle it. But the ultimate thing is try to put it in age appropriate terms, and take every kid seriously. Take every kid seriously. Even the ones that you might feel like, oh, they only saying that because I took their phone away. Well, not every kid jumps to suicidal ideation because you took their phone away. There is something there still.
And if they are, honestly, that's a parental issue that they allowed or even created that environment for, and that's coming from someone who's a father who, my son's 10 years old, he has a cell phone. And here's the reason why. Here's the reason why he has a cell phone is because I have the Find My iPhone app on there. So like if the bus happens to be taken over, or worst case scenario, he somehow for whatever reason at 10 years old decides to skip school, I can find him easily, right? And he doesn't have any way of taking that off because he doesn't know my code to take it off, right? So, but my kid also knows that if he don't brush his teeth in the morning, he's getting his phone taken away when he gets home from school, right? So he knows, like he gets mad. He gets super upset when he knows he's wrong, and he whatever. But it's how you handle the situation. It's how you do things with your kids. If you have to explain to your child that's whatever age, it's okay to break down and cry in front of them. It's okay to show them that emotion. It's okay to show, like, because that's how they're going to realize how much of an impact that is for you to tell someone or tell your kid that somebody close to you has passed away. I mean, you may not have to tell them how they passed away at that age, and I think that's probably the best for you, is to protect them from the idea of suicide, especially if they're under 10 years old, 10, 11 years old. But you can let them know that they passed away. They're, like you said, I think that's a perfect way of saying it, that they've gone to sleep and they'll never wake up again. And unfortunately, we'll never see them again because we have to bury them or cremate them. I don't know if you want to go to that details, but but they're going to understand, especially if you take them to the viewing or whatever may be the case, the funeral services that you do, whatever your culture provides. Then you have to explain why they have to go there, because they're going to ask you, why are we going here? Why can't we just go play somewhere or whatever, right? Thank you for that experience. That's actually your experience of that with child therapy and stuff. If I have an issue with any of my kids that may need one, I might reach out to you first to find out all the details of what to expect from
I
it.
used to work with a lot of nonverbal and a lot of select mutism children, and I had one kid who was a selective mute child, and she did, after like a month, and it was even me as a therapist, this was me, just, we have a YMCA counselor, and her parents told me she doesn't talk, she doesn't talk. Well, baby, Maya talked to me. It took a month, but she talked to me. And it's because every day, and mind you, this is no fault against, because I know a lot of parents blame themselves, especially when it comes to the nonverbal thing, like, why won't they do it with me? And it's sometimes there really is just, there's just nonverbal. There's just something they're gonna have to work on, develop over time, or it just might always, unfortunately, be that way. But this girl was selective mute. She chose not to speak. And her reasoning was her parents had divorced, and after her parents divorced, she just chose to be silent for almost 2 years. But after me just saying, you know what, Maya, if you don't ever want to talk to anybody, you don't have to. After I taught her that, she started talking.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, yeah, because putting the pressure on kids doesn't help. I know, like with my kid, he tends to shut down as soon as we're like, you need to tell us what's going on. And it's like, well, maybe I should go about it a different way. It's like, all right, man, listen, I'm not gonna be mad. Like, I honestly, like, and that's the thing, is like, if you're gonna tell your kid you're not gonna be mad, don't be mad when they tell you, because like that's just wrong for you to lie. That's already building.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
You're already losing that trust with them, like, as they get older.
Early childhood trauma.
So I try not to me and my oldest one has been building a really good relationship over the last few months. We've had a good relationship the whole time, but I've noticed that, like, I've been doing, that's the thing. The grind is real, and your kids see it. Your kids will feel it. They see everything. They observe and they absorb everything. And I needed to spend some more time with him. So also when I got back, I started dedicating a little bit more time to playing like Roblox with him And we had him on stream Saturday night. Played for a couple hours on Roblox on stream, and I used to bring him on streams beforehand. We used to play Nintendo games. We used to do video games. We used to do Mario games and stuff like that on stream when I lived in Arizona over a year ago when we used to be in my old house. And so he loved it, and so he's been bugging about getting on stream, or whatever. And that's the thing is, teach your kids some resilience. Teach yourself some resilience. We have another thing in the Army that we have a separate class, separate certification for. I'm not certified on it, but one thing that does really relate to me and what I like to push out for everyone is always think about for every negative, there's always 3 positives. You just got to figure out what those positives are. But the best way to do that, and the analogy that they use that is, be a tennis ball and not an egg. Because chat, what do you do? What do you do? What happens if you take a tennis racket, or you take a bat, or you take something and you hit an egg, you toss up an egg and you swing at it? What happens with that egg? It goes splat, right? You drop it on the ground, whatever. You take a tennis ball. What does it do? It bounces back. So every time there's an action, there's always a reaction. But what's that reaction going to be? Is it going to be positive or negative? So what that tennis ball analogy is referring to is having a positive bounce back. Always be that bouncing tennis ball. Bounce back with positivity. There's been multiple times where it's honestly, in the beginning, it's a lot more energy to bring out the positivity than it is the negative. But once you learn how to do it, you spend half the energy being positive than you do trying to find the negative. And so with that being said, that's all I have for topics today. Did you want to add anything else today? I really love this conversation. I really enjoyed it. I'm still kind of like fangirling a little bit, and honored to have you here, and your experience and your expertise in this really means a lot to me, and it really helped out with the conversation. It helped me bring up and have these topics to be able to discuss tonight.
Glad we were able to do it. I've been looking forward to this for like almost a month.
Yeah,
I love podcasts. I know, like I always say, the only thing about a podcast stream is, because I am such an interactive streamer, and I know that you are as well, is not being able to talk to you wonderful people. Get clam slamming all you people. I will get to y'all, but I have been reading chat. I know Dom was reading chat. You guys gave some excellent feedback. I saw certain people even sharing some of their own stories and their own challenges, some of their own warning signs. Where I know 13 talked about, hey, if people start calling you randomly and being like, hey, just letting you know I've always loved you. You're my best friend, and this and that. You mean everything to me. Just all out of the blue, and they doing that with your whole family. That's a warning sign, because that could be, they writing their goodbyes, but they're doing it through phone calls and things like that. So you guys, we want to thank you guys for also joining in and being a part of the conversation today, because you guys added some excellent feedback as well. I hope that you will go and follow Dominator Gaming. He is the host of the DomCast, focused on mental health matters as well as suicide prevention. So he has resources in his chat. He's a wonderful person, father, a husband, and in the military. He's in the Army, okay, damn it. So he be out here saving lives and helping people, not only on the ground with the guns and defending people, but actually helping their mental health, and like making sure that the soldiers are also taking care of their mental health. So make sure you guys go follow him and connect with him. I don't have anything else on my end as far as questions or anything like that. I think that you covered a lot of things beautifully, and just you're just a natural. So just thank you again for even having me here.
No, thank you so much. That's awesome. Yeah, I don't really have much more for this. Everyone in my chat saying they had a great time listening in. It was a great mental health discussion.
I hope so.
Everyone, yeah, some of the same people are in the chat as well. I remember seeing a lot of comments. A lot of people were just actually, you know what the funny thing is a lot of people are now just talking to each other about other things, and that's the great thing to see. New people coming in and getting to know each other, and also some of the core community from yours, from mine, getting to know each other, meeting and having positive, uplifting conversations. And that's what we really want to do. That's really what I want to see. And people who are sharing their experiences and or also talking about their personal life situations that are going on right now, and how this is helping them, and understanding that they are working that courage up to be able to talk to somebody. And that's really what it comes down to when it comes to this DomCast. When I invite creators in, is to spread the wealth, spread the reach, let people know that we care and that we are human too. We go through our own diversities, and Again,
No,
Lauren.
we all streamers. All us
Yeah.
streamers struggle with anxiety and all types of stuff. We can barely get the damn words out, but we sure
Right.
do like when people hear
Yep, yep,
them.
yep. So the queen of positivity, queen of hype, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Hey, listen, through all what you've been going through the last few months, at least since I've known you, you've always stayed on top of positivity. You've always killed people with kindness. You're always blessing them. And listen, you keep doing what you're doing. If if you need anything, my DMs are open. And keep doing what you're doing. I appreciate you. Appreciate the shout outs. Appreciate you being here. Again, we need to do this again, maybe in a couple months.
I love you for real. Take care of yourself and your family, and just holla if you need me.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your time.